Hey guys, it's me again. Welcome to another video. So let's talk about the Sony A7IV. This camera I recently acquired about a year ago now. It came out a year ago, so it's still a fresh camera. So let's talk about the pros and cons of this camera today. But before that, I would like to tell you my experience with this camera. So my experience with this camera has been overall awesome. I've been doing a lot of sports and a lot of high speed moving photography as far as people go. I've not tested out with like moving cars as of yet, maybe sometime in the future, but for now I've been doing a lot of people photography, cinematography, getting good with other things and testing capabilities, testing the dynamic range of this camera. There are a lot of good things I could say about this camera. Coming from the Sony A7IV, which was my previous camera that I've been using for the past couple years, I could say that this camera is peak level of expectations what I have for these kind of cameras. This camera is a hybrid camera, so you shoot video and you could shoot portrait photography for whatever you want to do. So with this camera I've shot a lot of 4K footage, which honestly is probably the best looking footage I've ever laid my hands on, and my 4K footage is really crispy. A lot of times I'm downgrading the footage because in football you kind of got to get close into the sport and you want to be presenting it to your audience that in the field feeling like how you see in the movies. So a lot of the time, when I'm doing something personal, it's really crispy. It's really, really crispy. I cannot doubt that. And I really appreciate what Sony's done for this camera. And Sony's been coming out with some great things as of late. Currently I'm shooting on the A7IV in 4K. You'll kind of see the quality, how it comes out when I finish editing and color grading and chopping up all the little bitty parts out of it. But this is an excellent choice for if you want to take this very seriously. This camera comes with some new features as far as updates from the last line, which was the A7III. You get a flip screen, which is cool for what you need it to do. If you're vlogging, if you need to see what you're doing, it presents you more mobility. You can do a lot of things with a flip screen. So, I really appreciate that feature as well. What else I have to say about this camera is that, what I have to appreciate about this camera is its long battery life. What I've been going through so much with the Sony A7II and 1 that I've come off from is batteries were dying constantly. I could not stand it. I'd have to have 5 batteries to go through one shoot. This camera, maybe you need 2 batteries for a shoot. I have 5, just for that insurance, just in case it's all day or I'm traveling. I'd like to have my batteries last a long time, and I don't want to kind of just take that risk and just sit there, charge batteries. It's not something I would recommend. But, you do have the benefit out of I have 2 batteries that could last me a shoot. That's something that gives you peace of mind at the end of the day. Other than the battery, you get higher quality images and video. With 33 megapixels is what they're claiming it to be. Coming from 24.2, it's something. It's really nice. You print out the pictures. Either way, it's gonna look good. It's just as long as you get your exposure right. I feel like the 33 megapixels do add to it, because a lot of the times you do have to crop in, and when you do crop in, you lose half your megapixels depending on what you're doing. If you zoom in half, you lose half your megapixels. That's kind of how I see it. But overall, it's really nice. The cons of this camera, the price point. It's pretty expensive for what it costs. The price of May went down, but at the time of it coming out around this time of year, what is it? Today is the 13th of December. So the time it came out last year, it was about $2,600. That's a lot of money for, a hybrid camera that, you could spend that money elsewhere. You could, it really depends on what you're gonna do. Like if you're gonna do just strictly video, you could get like Blackmagic, or you can get a Sony A7IV for a little bit more money. But it's a lot of money for something that's kind of upgrading from the Sony A7 II or 3 or whatever. Back then, I believe, don't quote me on this, but the price of the A7 III at the time, I think it was like $2,100. I mean, you jump in $500 from what you previously had. It's not the best, but yeah. Another con of this camera, when you first get this camera and you're not aware of the things that go on in this camera as far as shooting in 4K for the first time, please do make sure that you turn on the heat control. There's like a button in the camera that ignores the overheating in the camera, because this camera will overheat on you very quickly if you're not careful. My experience with this camera is that I was shooting on a wedding and I was shooting 30 frames per second, 4K. Kid you not, 10 minutes into the shoot, camera's like, all right, time out. I'm hot. And I'm like, okay, what do I do? You're shooting with a team of 4 people and your camera is done. So what you got to do is make sure you turn off that overheat button and you'll be good. I think that's really my cons about this camera. Overall, I really like it. It does the job, gets me through a lot. The autofocusing is incredible, and I would like to see what Sony does with their next line of, baseline A7 cameras. And that's really what I gotta say. All right. See ya.